The evening settled over the Wild West like a weary sigh, painting the horizon in fading streaks of gold that lingered as if reluctant to let go. Dust rose with each whisper of wind, swirling around the cottonwoods beside the river as though the land itself had paused to witness something it sensed was coming. In that quiet cradle of dusk, Nayeli Sky, aged 20, tall, slender, beautiful in a way the world often refused to honor, moved along the bank with her wooden crutches tapping a familiar rhythm. Each soft thud carried years of endurance, years of learning to stand in a world that preferred she remain unseen. Her reflection trembled across the surface of the river, wavering like a thought she hadn't dared to solidify. Though her long, dark braids were adorned with white and light brown feathers and her dress shimmered with delicate beadwork, she still felt the old ache tug at her ribs, that no matter how brightly she tried to shine, others would always see the crutches before they ever saw her. A question haunted her: why must strength always be mistaken for weakness? The water offered no answer, only a quivering echo of her own face, broken by the breeze. Curiosity rose inside her like a faint ember, wondering if her story had already been written or if fate still waited for her to turn a page. Hoofbeats approached from the west, slow and steady, blending with the hum of evening crickets. Harrison Colt, age 30, tall, handsome, with storm-soft gray eyes, rode toward the river with a posture that spoke of long roads and longer burdens. His horse snorted as though sensing the fragile sorrow drifting through the air. Harrison had heard rumors in town of the crippled girl by the water, spoken with careless pity that made his jaw tense every time he heard it. He loathed the whispers, the way judgment dressed itself in politeness and called it concern. Perhaps that was why the river called him tonight. Perhaps he needed to see the truth behind the stories, to know whether the world had misjudged her as easily as it misjudged so many. When he reached the river, he saw her standing in the soft dusk glow, her silhouette slender and still against the rolling current. Something in the sight struck him, not in shock, not in curiosity alone, but in a kind of reverence he hadn't felt in years. The way she held her posture, delicate yet determined, drew him in more deeply than words ever could. He dismounted gently, removing his hat as though entering sacred ground. She heard him but did not turn, her grip tightening on her crutches. "Evening, ma'am," he said, his voice carrying the warmth of a campfire and the hesitancy of someone entering a story not yet his. Her eyes stayed on the water. "There's nothing here worth looking at." Harrison blinked, startled by the sharpness hidden beneath her softness. "I reckon that's not true," she responded with a faint, tired laugh that dissolved into the wind. "You don't need to pretend kindness. I know what people think when they look at me." Harrison stepped closer, slowly, so as not to step on whatever fragile boundary she was guarding. "And what is it they think? That I am broken, that I am less, that I will never be someone a man chooses freely." She lifted one crutch slightly, letting its worn wood catch the fading light. "These are the first thing they see." Harrison's breath deepened as a storm stirred somewhere in his chest. "Maybe they don't know how to see." She finally glanced at him, her eyes deep as shadowed pools, filled with storms she carried alone. "And you? What do you see?" He paused, knowing words carried consequences. A woman with strength so quiet most folks don't recognize it. And beauty that doesn't need to ask for permission. Her throat tightened at that, for she had imagined such words but never heard them. She looked away quickly, afraid he would see hope flicker in her eyes. Curiosity curled between them like smoke, urging her to believe, but fear pressed her ribs, telling her belief was dangerous. Over the next days, Harrison found reasons to ride by the river, reasons that became less about coincidence and more about something his heart wasn't ready to name. Nayeli was cautious, wary of kindness that felt too much like mercy. Harrison never forced conversation. He simply existed in a quiet orbit around her. He listened more than he spoke, and each gesture he made was deliberate, as if he were building something delicate that should not be rushed. He carved her new handles for her crutches, shaping the wood so it fit her palms without leaving the familiar marks she had learned to ignore. When he offered them, she hesitated as though accepting them meant accepting everything he wasn't saying. "They're only for comfort," he said softly. "Nothing more." She took them, her fingers brushing his. "Thank you," she whispered, but the words trembled as if unsure they deserved to exist. Sometimes, he taught her how to ride, sitting behind her on his horse so she could feel safe within the rhythm of shared breath. Other times he brought her wildflowers, not the bright, delicate ones that wilted quickly, but the hardy blooms that survived heat, drought, and storms. Flowers like her, though he never said the comparison aloud. She noticed anyway, and each time she held one, her heartbeat shifted in a way she didn't yet trust. But the town noticed them too, and judgment spread faster than wildfire. Whispers rose like flicking knives, sharp, cruel, and always just loud enough for Nayeli to hear. "He's wasting himself on her. She'll only hold him back. A man deserves a proper wife, not a burden." Nayeli remained silent, but Harrison saw the damage each whisper left behind. The next time they walked through town, two ranch hands muttered something vicious about fixing her legs, and Harrison turned on them with the kind of fire that made both men step back. "Say that again," he growled, "and you'll learn what happens when a man defends someone worth more than your whole damn ranch." But even as the men backed off, Nayeli's face fell, humiliation flushing her cheeks. "You see," she whispered to him once they were alone, "this is what you get for standing near me." Harrison shook his head. "What I get is your company. And that's worth every fight." "But I care," she said, voice breaking. "I care that they mock you because of me." He stepped close, lowering his voice. "Nayeli, I'm not ashamed. But I'm ashamed," she choked. "Of feeling like I am something you must defend. Of feeling like I am less than other women." Her crutches wobbled for a moment, and Harrison steadied her gently. She looked up at him, tears forming, the world pressing heavy on her shoulders. But something in her eyes, the small flicker of hurt pride, seemed to be turning into something else, something fragile and brave. That night, she went to the river alone. Harrison found her by moonlight, her dress brushing the ground like a sigh. Her tears glimmered on her cheeks, unhidden this time. She didn't turn when she heard him approach. "I'm disabled," she whispered into the darkness. "I'm not perfect for you." Harrison felt pain flare through him, not because of her words, but because she believed them. He stepped closer, every movement gentle. "Nayeli," he murmured, "you're the only one my heart beats for." She inhaled shakily, stunned as though he had spoken a forbidden truth. The river shimmered, the moon seeming to lean closer to listen. "Perfect isn't what I want," he continued. "I want you. Exactly as you are." She closed her eyes, letting the wind envelop her. "I want to believe you," she whispered. "Then let me show you," he said, brushing a stray feather from her braid with trembling fingers, "every day." The next morning, he brought her to the river's edge and knelt, not out of pity, but reverence. "Walk beside me," he said, "through whatever life gives us." Her breath caught. You would marry me?" "With more joy than anything I've ever done." Tears slid down her cheeks, but for the first time they carried gratitude instead of sorrow. "Yes," she whispered, offering him her hand, small and shaking yet full of hope. Their wedding was held beneath tall cottonwoods, with ribbons fluttering like soft spirits in the wind. Nayeli's white beaded dress shimmered with feathers that danced each time the wind touched them. Harrison's eyes shone with a steady kind of love, the kind that grows from watching someone stand despite every reason to fall. When she walked toward him, her crutches steady and her head lifted, even the judgmental townsfolk fell silent. He took her hands gently, as though holding something sacred. "You are my home," he whispered. "And you are my courage," she replied. Their vows felt ancient, shaped by wind, earth, and everything they had survived. When they kissed, it felt like the land itself breathed easier. They built a small home by the river where their story had begun. Days slid by with soft laughter, shared chores, and moments of quiet tenderness, Harrison repairing fences while Nayeli tended to herbs and drying plants, her crutches leaning near the doorway like trusted friends. She learned to ride without fear. He learned to listen to her silences. Together, they built a life made of gentle rituals that stitched their hearts closer each day. But the world was never done testing those who had earned happiness. One blistering summer evening, a wildfire tore across the plains, devouring everything in its path. Smoke curled like dark serpents into the sky, and the air tasted of ash and urgency. Harrison raced toward the flames to help a trapped ranch family, but his horse spooked and bolted, leaving him stranded between walls of fire. Nayeli saw him from the ridge. For a moment the world froze, fear wrapping around her like chains. Then something fierce rose inside her. She mounted her horse, tying her crutches to the saddle, and urged the animal down the burning path. Her heart hammered, each beat a testament to the love she once doubted she deserved. The smoke stung her eyes, but she found Harrison stumbling through the haze, coughing violently. "Nayeli!" he gasped, stunned. She reached down for him. "Hold on," she said, steady in a way she had never felt before. Pulling him up behind her, she guided the horse back through the flames, the heat blistering, the ground cracking beneath them. Just when it seemed the fire would swallow them, they burst through the last veil of smoke and collapsed by the riverbank, lungs burning, hearts pounding. Harrison held her, trembling. "You saved me." Nayeli touched his cheek softly. "You taught me I was worth saving." And for the first time, she believed it. Not because he said it, but because she had proven it herself. They lay there, listening to the river murmur against the scorched earth. The smoke drifted away slowly, as if surrendering. The night wrapped them in its tired arms, and the land seemed to exhale, content that this love, fragile, bruised, hard one, had survived another trial. Nayeli lifted her head, her voice a soft whisper against the night. "Maybe this is what love truly is," she said. "Not the world's approval. Not perfection. Just two hearts choosing each other again, even when it hurts." Harrison kissed her forehead. "I'll choose you every day," he murmured. And in the hush that followed, the future stretched before them like a promise waiting to be lived. Though their story was far from over, the night settled around them with a sense of completion, as if one chapter had reached its perfect end, and a new one waited patiently just beyond the horizon, ready to be written when dawn arrived.